Good morning, Predicted Trades family. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody had a good trading day yesterday. We did pretty darn good in the room yesterday, if I do say so myself. And let's just take a look at yesterday. So we opened near our 37.73, had a little dip to it, and then we took some longs off of that. And funny enough, in this first 30-minute candle up, it went up and came back and went up and came back and then made it up. And in that 1 30-minute candle, the calls and puts that we were watching gave us doubles, just getting in and out and in and out while it kind of grinded up for the first 30 minutes. Then we entered a short back off of these squeeze tops and this key level, 3807.5. It actually like ran up real fast and tagged it and then came back and then like wicked back. So we hopped into shorts. That provided a great trade, something like 50 cents to $2, something like that. Market came back down to about 37.50, kind of yesterday's low, and then started a slow grind back up, making it back to that 3807, providing one more pullback before finally getting through and pushing up to 3822, the high for yesterday. In the overnight session, basically went nowhere, just kind of hung around this 3807.5. And this morning we're coming down and testing and setting new lows. Wouldn't be surprised if we slip down to retest 37.73. But before we get too far into where we can go today, we'll take a quick look at the economic calendar. Yesterday we had that PMI data that came out at 9:45. Today we have some home data that comes out around 9 a.m. and then consumer confidence index at 10 a.m. For Wednesday, we have a little bit at 8:30, trade in goods, and then new home sales at 10 a.m. Then Thursday and Friday are the big days with some GDP and jobless data and core capital equipment, all at 8:30. And then Friday, some more employment data and PCE data, as well as consumer spending. And our University of Michigan reports. This week we do have some big tech earnings. I'll pull that up again for today so we can talk about it. And let me maximize so it will get a bigger picture in here. There we go. So, yesterday after the bell, we had some, banks, cards, yada yada. Finance report. Today we have UPS before the bell, GM, Coca-Cola, and then the big ones in tech start today after the bell with Microsoft and Google. We'll have to see how those reports come out, but lately, most names in tech have been seeing some good earnings and favorable responses off of that. Going into tomorrow, we have Boeing before the bell, some oil as well, and then Meta after the bell. Then on Thursday, we've got some Shopify, McDonald's, Caterpillar, MasterCard, some airlines, and then after the bell, the big ones, Apple, Amazon, Intel. So, going to be an interesting week for sure. And we are approaching a daily squeeze top. It's a nice thick daily squeeze top that spans all the way up to 3,900. And that daily 50, that purple line, is slowly stepping down. Today it aligns with that 3878. Not necessarily saying that we get there today with Microsoft and Google reporting after close. Would not be surprised for a tight range day, but we could always head higher, right? It just depends on volume and momentum. So we're on a little slip back down, little gap down, very small, 14 points. It could easily come back up near this 3807 before open. Overall, we do have a number of squeezes that are stacking up as we approach this daily squeeze top. So, just to put things in perspective, should we try to push higher and through these squeeze tops, we have key zone up above at 3843, 38.855. We did not quite get there yesterday. And then above that, that 3878 and a half, where the daily 50 now perfectly overlaps. But again, not necessarily saying we get there today with all these squeeze tops. We could stay in range today, and then if Google and Microsoft earnings go well and they jump up, we kind of know where that next destination is going to be if ES jumps up or guides up overnight. Should we remain a little weak and stay below this 3807 in yesterday's highs, we could slip down into these squeeze bottoms and back to this 3773. Should that give out, it's back to retest yesterday's lows around 3750, where this 2-hour squeeze sits, the bottom of it. And then right at our key level, I love how this works. We track these daily moving averages and they move around every day, right? But today, the daily 50 perfectly overlapping a key level, and the daily 21 and daily 8 are perfectly overlapping our 3741. They are also crossing over each other, the daily 8 crossing over the daily 21. So, there could be a scenario where we see some selling today, some profit taking, and come back to yesterday's lows, slip a little bit below that even to set a lower low on the daily, and tag these moving averages as they're crossing over at this key level 3741. Would also be retesting the pre-market lows from yesterday. So, just an interesting scenario. We could slip down, looking like we're going to test yesterday's lows, then go a little bit lower to the pre-market lows, and then catch a big bounce back. Buyers have shown that they're present and defending all of these levels. But we could just as well stay in this range and chop around these squeezes and never quite break out of them. So we've got our upside, our downside, and our sideways targets. On to NQ. NQ yesterday fought back up to these overnight highs, but did not quite test that 530. basically stalled out at our key level here around 491 and that psych level 11,500. And Q also barely down. In fact, one good pop candle will get us right back to yesterday's highs. But we do have all these stack squeezes. If we can continue to the upside and try to push through these squeezes, I say likely scenario is lower volume today and sideways going into Microsoft and Google earnings. But I can foresee scenarios where we do dip down out of this range, where we could push higher out of this range, and it'd basically just be buyer sentiment leading into these earnings. I talked about, what we saw last week was very interesting in the sense that every day they'd buy some and then wait. They got a gap up, so brought it back, bought some, comes back again overnight, they bought some. Basically, they were buying up last week pretty much every morning while it slowly faded back to our key zones and big squeeze bottoms. And then we saw that big run up on Friday, whereas every other Friday lately we've been selling off. We had this big pop on Thursday, Friday sell off. The previous Friday before that was a sell off. So just saying this is a big week in earnings, and if we kind of look at the structure that was before this week, they were buying up leading into earnings. So I say all that just to give some backing as to why we could push higher today before earnings, before Microsoft and Google report today, right? We could go sideways into it, we could slip back and then pop back into range. We could even push into the earnings. So if we do push to the upside, we still have this 11,500 to deal with. We have some squeeze tops to deal with here that span up to 11,600, and the next key target is 677, where that first Keltner up sits. We've done a good job getting above the mean and holding above the mean. But if we do slip back, losing pre-market low, likely coming back to test the daily 21 and daily 8, which have not crossed over yet. And we have our squeeze bottoms there, and yesterday's a low, right near our key level. So if we do break out of range to the downside, we've got our key targets to watch. Ready. Also doing a good job staying above its daily moving averages now that we're above the mean. The ready will be a key sign today. If it can't hold its daily moving averages in the bottom of these squeezes and yesterday's low and starts breaking lower, then we can start seeing ES and come back to the daily mean and daily 8 and the pre-market lows from yesterday, right? But if we can hold the daily mean and the moving averages below it, could get a pop back up to yesterday's highs. And if we can push further, 1780 and recent highs from last Tuesday. Daily 50 slowly coming down and now arriving near that 1800. YM. Very interesting chart. Got above the daily 50. So the first index to get above the daily 50 and hold above it. YM's been very strong. Also got above the daily 21, pushed to the daily 50, held that. And arriving at our key levels here. I've got 3 around this 800, 600, and 450. Let's zoom in here a little. On a little fade and at our squeeze bottoms, you know, YM, obviously the biggest one down right now. Let's just take a quick look. And YM down 0.5%, while the others are only down, you know, 30%. So definitely YM dragging us down this morning. But let's see if it can hold. These squeeze bottoms, it could, as close as we are getting to this 31,300, could pull back to test that. And if that gives out down to yesterday's lows, this daily Keltner first one up, and we have the daily 50. Looks like we have the 2-hour squeeze close to that 31,000 near Monday's pre-market lows. So those are downside targets if we start to break this squeeze to the downside. But if we hold and start getting back 31,500, then back to that 616. We got to it in the morning, and we sat here for a while before sliding back into close. So, if we can get through that 616, then next up that 800 and that daily Keltner to the upside, kind of in between the two Keltners. Let's see which one we go get first, or if we just stay in range. The daily squeeze is still intact, but very, very thin, and as long as we stay up here today, it will likely disappear, basically signifying that we are going to fire this squeeze to the upside on YM. Apple did a great job yesterday. Didn't even need to get down to the daily 21 and this 145 for a test. Held that 146 and popped right back and then pushed through each of our key levels here. Now, with the gap down, coming back to test, let's see if what we fought through can now be support. Apple did get up to that 150, so if we can push higher, looking to get to 150, and then up to this daily squeeze, which starts at 152, and then the zone past that, pretty much around 154, 154.7, and the daily 50, which sits there as well. So, if we can get through yesterday's high, those are the next targets to go visit. But we could just sit around these key levels, chopping today. If we start to lose that 147.5, likely coming back to retest 146, and potentially this zone below at 145, where those moving averages sit, the 21 and the daily 8. AMD. I've been talking about this one in these key levels, 56, 58. It slipped about to 56.5 and then fought right back to 58. Now sitting up here. So let's see. This could be a good sign for a breakdown out of our range today if we see the same kind of hard drop in AMD first. You know, it pretty much open, gave a little bit of a bounce to that key level, and then dropped fast in the first 30 minutes while the market was going up. So let's see if we get that again on AMD. It could be a sign that the market might slip out of those smaller time frame squeeze bottoms, like the 30-minute. This 30-minute squeeze on AMD very tight, right around this 58. So let's see which way that 30-minute squeeze fires. If it's to the upside, obvious target is getting back to 60, where that daily 15 has now come down to meet. Amazon. Amazon was a little weak as far as the big names in tech yesterday. it kind of was dropping for the first 30 minutes while the market was going up, and it just kept going once the market came back, but did a great job holding the daily 21. So same range today. Let's see if we can hold the daily 21, 117, squeeze bottoms 118, work our way back up to squeeze tops at 120, and yesterday's high, pre-market high, 121. Target above that, got 122.25, and below the range, these moving averages. Let's see if it can hold up. BA. Perfectly, this trend line yesterday is right where it tagged and turned around. Let's see if it continues to hold that up. Reports tomorrow before the bell. If it starts to give out that trend line back to 140, maybe this 138.5. Cat. Decent day yesterday. Basically just flagging after a strong Friday. Wouldn't be surprised to see Cat have some continuation. Doesn't report till Thursday before the bell. Next stop 193, 195 in a journey to get up to 200. Well, kind of this 198.5 where the third Keltner and daily 200 sit. If it's going to pop out of this flag, it could just stay between these key levels 193.83, 189.47 today, maybe even the next day into earnings. If we start to lose this 189, back to 185. Coin. Kind of like AMD's chart, straight down. We are stuck between key levels, set a higher low, then right back up. Basically same range as yesterday. See if it can hold 65, setting another higher low, and work its way back to the daily 21, 67.5, daily 15, 68.25, and up to this key level, 69.5, 70, where the daily 50 will be arriving today. Google. Great bounce at the daily 21 and at squeeze bottoms right back up through that 101 almost to 103, kind of knocking on that door pre-market. Google almost looks like a little bit of a gap up while market is still a little down. So let's see if she's going to keep pushing today into her earnings. Got that 103.5 recent high, and then if we can keep going higher at about 105 is that daily 50. But if we start to come back and lose 102, probably come to test 101 and yesterday's lows near 100 and these moving averages at the bottom of the squeeze. GS, basically a wedge after a strong day, so a bit of a bull flag. Let's see if it can hold this daily 200 like it did yesterday. If it gives it out, coming back to the daily 50 at 322. Psych level 320. If that starts to give out, we'd be talking about engulfing Friday, which would mean the market is, maybe slipping below yesterday's lows and further. But overall, let's see if GS can hold up here at this 325, head back through 330 with the goal of trying to push a little higher. 332.5 is that second Keltner. 340, 343 is the third Keltner. JPM. Same thing, basically flagging after this run up. Let's see if it can hold above. Psych level 120 and 121. Push back to yesterday's highs, 123 and 124, on our way to 125. 126.5 where the daily 200 sits. Also where the third Keltner sits. Basically, when we talk about big tech earnings, we did time on JPM hitting the bottom of a daily squeeze right before earnings. And now we've been on this climb up, back above the daily 21 and further almost to third Keltner and back to the daily 200. So let's see if we complete that journey. But just like we have seen on JPM, we could see the same on big tech earnings. They did start running them up a little bit, in the last week or two. But they are only, just above their daily 21 right before earnings. So if we can have some favorable numbers or reaction, even if numbers are not so bad, then we could continue the grind higher on big tech. Meta. And I got back up to those daily moving averages and squeezed tops yesterday. Right back in the middle. Let's see if she's going to have another dip in the morning to retest some of these lows. And, if she can't get above 130, then it's back to these moving averages, top of the squeeze. And if she can push further, 135, top of the 2-hour squeeze where the daily 21 sits. Microsoft. Oh, I came off that daily squeeze bottom with everything else. Fought back to the mean, pushing for more. Yesterday only got down to that 241 big key level, and then took right back up to 248. Strong day yesterday at Microsoft. Next stop, if we can keep going higher, setting new pre-market highs. Next stop, big obvious one, 250. At the top of a tiny little squeeze here. What do we got? Hourly squeeze. And then past that, 252.5, where the daily squeeze and daily 50 sit. Netflix. Oh, flagged. Had earnings last week. Basically flagged and popped higher on Friday. Yesterday, a little profit taking and a flag. Again. Well, let's see if this teeny bull flag in the middle of this, or teeny bear flag in the middle of this bull flag, as confusing as that sounds, let's see if we fire back up. If we can hold 280, it's a good sign. Maybe even I'd let it slip to this daily 200, and then back above 280. She can keep trucking back up to 290, 292.5, that recent high. With the overall goal of trying to continue through this gap. This is all shaded because it was an old gap zone. And the top of that gap sits way up here at 333. So let's see if she can get through 300, leads 306, and try to complete that journey. Just have to see if buyers keep stepping in to get through highs. NVIDIA. Same as AMD yesterday, dipped down to moving average and took off for new highs on the day and overnight. Approaching that high from last Thursday. So let's see if we can hold 125.5, 125. Work our way back up through yesterday's high to this 128. And beyond that, that psych level of 130 and the next Keltner near 131.5. If we start to lose that 125, could come back to the daily 21 at 124.5. If we lose that, back to 122 to test these moving averages that we, near yesterday's low. QQQ. A nice hold of the daily 8 and 21 yesterday, moving higher. If we start to lose these squeeze bottoms overnight low, around 277, we could slip back to retest them at 274, the daily 21 at least. If we can hold there, it is setting progressively higher lows. We would expect a bounce. We could also just hold this 30-minute squeeze bottom. Oh, and with the upside goal of getting to this psych level 280. And if we can push past it, pretty much perfectly, 282.5, 285. There's a daily Keltner and a key level at the top of this daily squeeze. SPX. I had a nice push, and then when we started shorting, I said we'll probably go back to fill the gap and then catch a bounce. And we pretty much got that. Went a hair past filling the gap just to get near these recent highs, and buyers woke up and took us right back up. We are firing that 2-hour squeeze to the upside into this daily squeeze. And we almost got to my key target at 38.15 yesterday. So, we're having a little gap down. Whenever we have little gaps, I always look for a gap fill. So, let's see in this small downtrend that we're having, if we can find our feet, come back to fill the gap to the upside, and then try to push to yesterday's high up to this 38.15. And just like if ES can get up near that 38.78, we have the daily 50 up there as well on SPX. SPY. Whoop. So with SPY, let's see if we can hold squeeze bottoms. You can see those squeeze bottoms kind of near where we bounced yesterday, both times after we, recovered the drop and got back, above our open level. So keep an eye on that previous day's open. Looks like it was around 276. Yeah. So 376. So let's see if we can hold squeeze bottoms in that 376. Try to work our way back up through 378, back to 380. We got that print yesterday, right at it. If we can push through 380, we've got a little zone here. 381.5 in the middle and 382.8 at the top. If we can break through that zone, the ultimate next stop is the daily 50, which is now at the bottom of our next zone and just a hair outside this daily squeeze top. But if we can't hold those bounce points or the squeeze bottom and fire to the downside, then we're going to test that 2-hour squeeze bottom at that 374. Tesla. Very strong yesterday. Of course, had a little selling and officially hit that 200 and 199.68. Went about $1 below that and then wicked up and held and pushed off of it. So that's why we watch these key levels. If you were shorting from 206, when we arrive at the key level, that's when I'm locking up the entire core of my position and trying to look in the opposite direction. And it lined up well with that 4-hour squeeze bottom, 2-hour squeeze bottom, and we tried to work our way back to the top, right? Got back to that 210, so now let's see if 206.82 can provide support like it has been providing some support, even though yesterday we rejected it just to get down to the next key level and then reclaimed it. Let's see if we can hold that 206.82, push through 210 with the goal of getting to that 216 key level, daily 8 sitting there, top of that 2-hour squeeze. If we can even push past that, 223 and the daily 15. If we do lose that 206, going to retest yesterday's lows and these squeeze bottoms, where we could set a higher low. When pretty much every day has been like we have been setting lower lows pretty much every day. So, settling after earnings. And their earnings weren't even that bad, so you can see we're settling maybe starting to scoop back up. UVXY. Talked about yesterday, I wanted to see it stay under these moving averages and keep pressing down into squeeze bottom. We got that for the upside on the market, right? And an interesting point, as the market popped up first, for the first 30-minute candle, UVXY also was popping up. So that was kind of telling me that there was a good chance to run up the first 30 minutes, go back for the gap fill, and then grind back up on the market, because I saw this going on over on UVXY, and so it gave me a lot of pause trying to go any further long when the market was hitting squeeze tops yesterday and UVXY was pumping with it. So let's see today. If UVXY starts to pop through this 30-minute squeeze top and this $12, we could see the market coming lower to maybe retest yesterday's lows. And UVXY would probably get up from 12, maybe up to this 12.3 in these squeeze tops and near yesterday's highs. But if UVXY can stay under 12 and just kind of slowly oscillate around and down to some of these pre-market lows, maybe even down to the 11.5, we could see a little push on the market today. But wouldn't be surprised to basically kind of be stuck in this little range between 12 and 11.5 today. VIX. Just like UVXY going up with the market, VIX was going up with the market. But then, just came back and settled and started a slow grind down. Not really even gapping up that much, basically right near yesterday's close. So let's see on VIX. We're going to see some decent upside today. Want to see VIX stay under 30. Now that we are getting under 30, rejected at pre-market, and make the journey down to 29.5, maybe this 29.2 at the bottom of the squeezes that we are slowly getting to for upside today. But if we're going to see a little slip in the market, we'll likely see VIX hold around that 29.5 near the squeeze bottoms, try to get back through 30, work its way back to these moving averages that it settled at and rejected yesterday, and that 30.5, maybe even up to the highs from yesterday at these squeeze tops. And remember, if we go to retest the lows from yesterday and maybe even those pre-market lows, we'll probably see VIX come up here, but then reject and come back down. If we see a bounce on the market, if we get down there. A lot of ifs. But that's pretty much it for prep today. Hopefully everybody found this helpful. We'll see you in the trading room, and good luck.